Today we're going to be taking a look at a dude and a motorcycle. Hello and welcome, my dear skill modelers, to my small hobby YouTube channel. My name is Tomo, and today we're going to be taking a look at a Yamaha Roadstar and a dude, this motorcycle, and this dude. Okay, so this motorcycle is basically the same as this motorcycle, but without, you know, the visor. See, it's this. The difference is, of course, this one is revamped version of the older one. It just has some new parts. This thing is a 2019 release of the older model kit that I've just shown you, and the only difference between them are the saddle, the wind deflector, and the trim, I believe. Some extra goodies are on top of it. Other than that, it's basically the same model. Now, this being a motorcycle, I would not recommend this for a novice, because motorcycles in general are a little bit more complex to put together than let's say a plane or a car. Now, the reason that I say that the motorcycle is not for the intermediate or the beginner is because it's a little bit complex to put together. Not in the physical attribute, like, you know, putting it physically together, but managing all the little parts and painting them individually. Now, yes, you can get away with not painting certain interior parts because the motorcycle, when it's put together properly, it's not going to be shown all the guts of it. It's just chrome pieces on the exterior. A lot of the things on the inside won't actually be exposed unless you try to actually expose it, you know, intentionally. In that case, yes, even a intermediate guy can put it together. But if you really want to do a good job, you do need to be a little bit more experienced, at least in my experience. Price point wise, this motorcycle costs around 45 euros, give or take 10 euros, depending of course where you buy it. And the price is kind of up there with all the rest of the motorcycles which are in this category anyway. So, well, it's a fair price, I guess. Move along. Here, this is also very new. This is a 1/12 scale guy standing in front of the motorcycle, and this is a 2019 release, I believe so. And you have options here. You can see the guy can hold the helmet in his hand, or the guy can have the helmet on hand and put his gloves on. And you have different type of helmet as well as some sunglasses here. But this is supposed to go with this or a different motorcycle, but you know, you get the point. So what can I say about the dude? It's pretty straightforward. Actually, it can be assembled pretty much by a novice. However, painting it in realistic fashion will take some skill, so that is why this is definitely not for a novice. What is there to say about this guy? Well, the dude is like this tall, I believe, like 1/12 scale, something like that. It's just 2 screws. They're white screws, so you can, you know, paint it lively colors if you want. And it's pretty simple to put together. It has a base on which it stands. There's no decals, and there's basically not a lot that I can say about it. Other than that you can put helmet or a hat on it. Yeah. Price point, it's around 16 euros, but you can get less if you want. I think it's again a very reasonable price for a model of a man standing beside a motorcycle. It kind of gives a little bit more dynamic to the whole diorama scene if you want to place it in one, because this motorcycle could be really very simply placed like in an alley where you build like a little wall, and then you put a little pavement or just concrete, slap the motorcycle in the middle and put the guy next to it, and it's basically a very simple and interesting diorama to look at. So without me going on again too much, let us take a look inside the boxes and see what's inside. Behold, the Yamaha Roadstar and the Street Rider. Okay, so these are the 2 new additions, as I mentioned, to the Tamiya family, this especially. And this is the revamped version of the older one, which I have here. This one is basically the same damn thing, only with the saddle and the shield, and a couple of other cosmetical things have changed. But anyway, let us not dwell into the past. Let us take a look at the kits. And first of all, let's take a look at this dude. as per usual, we have some sprues, and here is actually just, you know, 2 sprues and some nuts, screwdriver. So let's take a look. Okay, so the guy comes in 2 poses, one with the hat and one with the helmet. Basically you just have to glue the guy together using these 2 sprues. Let's take a look at the first one, shall we? Of course we have the base on which he stands, and then we have some ligaments and some arms and helmet here. And everything is pretty damn great. Look at that. See, you have really good definition. I mean, this is a bigger figure, so if you're used to 35th scale figures, this is surely something very different indeed. But it's really interesting because now you see you can put a thumb here inside this little arm. But I believe that's because he can either hold the helmet in his hand or just, you know, have hands crossed like you see on the box art. So here you have the little head cap thingy. You fit him inside, and of course you have the face here. And here is his expression. It's pretty good. Look at that. You can see all the expression on his face. He's a tough looking dude, isn't he? And yeah, look at that. So here is the butt and jeans, of course, nice little creases. It's really cool. And from this point it looks like a slipper, but this is a shoe, which you, of course, you have to put the sole on the shoe. Just a little extra complexity to the model. And you got the sides of the head, so it's kind of a weird thing, but yeah, look at that. You have 2 sides of the head and the ear. There's no head, there's no hair, obviously, because you have the helmet or the cap. But here's the under face. So depending on which guy you're gonna build, you know, this dude or this dude, you know, you can choose. And of course you have some screws and a little screwdriver to screw the guy on his base. Here before us is a manual for the construction of the dude. Now you've noticed that there are 2 faces. That's because this face and this face are basically the same face, but the construction of the face is different, because here you have to build a helmet around the head, and here you have to build the side of the head and then put the hat on top. So you'll see that in the instructions here. It's a typical fold-out manual. Well, you guys can see, you know, the trouser legs coming together here, and the jacket coming together. And here you see the first on the bottom here, you see the head going together if you're going to use a helmet, and you have 2 different helmets, as you can see. And the upper portion of the body, as well as the sole of his shoes, where you put the screws in so you can fix them on the base. And here is the other head, where you can choose to put the helmet on top, and how you put the helmet together. You have a little scarf, and you can put some visors or glasses on top, depending on what you're going for. And then of course here's the color scheme, which is kind of pointless because it's black and white, but you know. So you got another version here, and then how this thing goes together if you choose to put the hat on top of the head. So yeah, that's the guy. Let's move on to the motorcycle. So the Yamaha XV 1060 Roadstar custom. Well, it's a revamped version of the older model. You have some cosmetical changes, as you can see from the box art, that are different to the previous version of the same motorcycle, among which the most noticeable is the visor here. Well, there's not the visor, but actually the wind deflector, sorry. The wind deflector, and of course the 2 side lamps, and the saddle. The saddle and the seat is a little bit different than on the other one. But other than that, I think that's not that terribly different in its construction. There are a couple of different paint schemes that you can go for, but let's just take a look inside the box, shall we? So upon opening the box, you see that there's a lot of stuff inside. I've already opened the box up before starting to film, because I wanted to show you the individual sprues. But as you can see, there's a lot of stuff here. This motorcycle is a little bit complex, so we have some seats on the. We'll take a look at these things individually, but we have a couple of screws here. I think we're gonna take a look at the chrome parts first, and then we're gonna move on to the black ones, and of course the shell, which is this kind of the pearl white screw, and then we have some engine beads. Anyway, let's take a look at the chrome parts. Right, so here are all the bling bling parts, and it's typical Tamiya. It's typical Tamiya chrome, which is really good. Like I always say, chrome parts are a bitch to put together because when you're cutting them out from the sprue, you inevitably leave a little cut mark where you cut off it from the base. And that means that you have to do a little touch up. Now it's very, very difficult to touch up a very shiny chrome part if you don't have the right tools or paints. So for the most part, or many modelers choose to strip down the chrome finish and then just proceed spraying it with their own chrome paint of choice. Now you can do that, but that's a little bit more tedious. But if you want to get away with the finish chrome that is already here, I think that in this case you might even get away with it, especially if you have one of those chrome pens to just touch up a little bit on the sides, because from space it's not going to be seen. But anyway, as you can see, the chrome parts are absolutely fantastic. They are very shiny indeed, and this motorcycle is all about the bling bling. You can see my reflection in the camera inside. It's really nice, detailed. Even the spoked wheels here are exquisite. There's really no complaint here. Probably the most obvious problem that usually arises when you're putting chrome parts together is the exhaust. As you can see, it's from two parts, and you have to glue this side to this side, and which that means that you have a seam line on top and on the bottom. Now on the bottom, it's okay, but on top it's just gonna be seen. Now there is a saddlebag that kind of covers the majority of the top portion, so you kind of can get away with the seam line. But if you're really a nitpicker on the bottom, yeah, well, you just can't hide that. Here is the final one. This is a more of a matte chrome finish. This is probably more aluminum type of finish. It's very thin. It's not thick at all, and it's more of a matte. As you can see, it's not that shiny. It's basically just disc brakes and some forks, of course, here. And yeah, it looks very authentic, to be honest. It's really cool. So let's take a look at the engine parts. Of course, this being the revamped version of the older model, the sprue that I'm having here in my hand right now is basically identical to the one that you could find on the older model. It's the same engine, basically, and it goes together in the same manner. You have, the heads here, the main body and transmission, and of course here you have the drive belt at the chain. It's a small sprue, very delicately, not delicate, but very precisely molded. It's just perfection. The sprue ends, see where the sprue meets the body, is nice and long, so you can come in with the pliers, no problem at all. And when I was building this motorcycle, the older version, I can tell you it was just an easy snip off. So if I can show you, there's plenty of space. Where are the snippers? Okay, so got my little snippers here. Yeah, they're broken on one, but if you go here like very close, just snip it off and you have plenty of room, even if you have a more fat version of these. So these are very flat, see? You can do a very good job at taking care of business. As you can see, the detail is just phenomenal, and it will go together very nicely. The motor, once it's basically done, is like this. So okay, I still have it here. See, this is painted black because I wanted to chrome it, because it's chromed. So I've painted it black, but this is actually how it looks when it's completed. Oh, mostly. Anyway, that's the engine. Let's take a look at the frame, the black spruce. Okay, so here we have the frame of the motorcycle, and that is basically also very, very similar to the one in the previous box. So the old Roadstar Yamaha XV 1060. The plastic here is very soft to the touch, to be honest. It's very, very flexible and soft. But nevertheless, there is detail here, and you can see the footrests, I believe these are. And we have the frame, of course, here, and the seat. Just really nice and soft. It's very smooth, very soft to the touch, really nice. It's kind of strange to feel this kind of plastic, to be honest. So we got the back forks, all the back end here. And here is what's actually very different from the previous version. So we have the new type of seat with little crests, little bumps here, and the saddlebag, which comes on with this particular model kit that you do not get from the other one. But that's basically that's basically it. So what's left is there's some clear parts, and then we have some body shell. All right, so here is the shell, pearl white, very shiny indeed. Now the reason that this is in pearl white is because they want to give you the option to paint it however you please. If it's black, then it's really hard to make a shiny purple color to stand out if you want to choose to paint it in purple. And white is really just, neutral. But it's very simple. You have just the fenders, the fuel tank here, and little bits and bobs. This is on the side here. I think this is beneath the seat somewhere. But it's really just a simple sprue. Shiny, simple. Okay, so the last thing we have, well, actually the last two things we have are the clear parts. Here are the two clear parts, sprues. Of course, the major difference here again is the fact that this has the wind deflector, and this is it. It's very clear. I didn't take it out of the bag because normally, you leave fingerprints on, and it's really clear. You can see it here. Like if I take this, see, you can see right through, even through the bag and distortion. It's just fantastic. And it goes the same for the lights. You have some detail on the lights, just like the real thing, even on the back light. I don't really know what this is, but I think this might be the stand. And then we have, of course, the indicators. The last thing, of course, is the all-important rubber wheels. True rubber. The thread on them is really good. Look at that. Nice threaded. Fantastic. There is a little bit of a seam line here going on from the process of making them, I believe. Oh, actually it's not. Sorry, that's just the bag. Oh, my bad. My bad. Well, actually it is. No, it is. Look at that. There is a seam line. Anyway, these can be fixed. You can just file away and make it more weathered, so it's not gonna look like showroom fresh, but it's gonna be more realistic. And then of course you have the spring for the suspension, and some parts that go on the forks, as well as the screwdriver. You can never have a lot of these screwdrivers. I have a ton of these screwdrivers from Tamiya kits. So, and some vinyl tubing for the electronics and the pipes and the hoses. So yeah, that's it. As far as sprues are concerned, now let's take a quick look at the manual. But before we go to the manual, we have the decals and the masking tape. Well, this masking tape is basically to cover the fuel tank, because the fuel tank is a two-tone color-based fuel tank. Of course, you can paint it in black, that'll be that, but that'll be boring. But if you want to make a two-tone paint, basically you just have to cut out this masking tape and then proceed to placing it on top of the fuel tank, and then spring it. Of course, as well as the masking tape, we also have decals, and here is basically just the trim parts for the motorcycle, the black and purple, depending on which color scheme you're going for. And there's a little speedometer here on top. See, it's pretty nicely detailed, really good, very nice decals indeed. And you can see there's a relief here in the late portion. There's It's not just red. So that's good. And of course the useless Roadstar license plates. I mean, yeah, you can put it on, but I prefer to make a custom one. And of course some details on the engine and the Yamaha signs. Anyway, the decals are awesome. Even the smaller ones, look at that sign. Pretty cool, pretty cool. Okay, so now the manual. So the manual, it's black and white type manual. This time not a fold out, but a book. So the process of assembly here is basically the same as in the older one. Of course, the differences are when you come to the accessories, but as you can see, it's pretty straightforward. This motorcycle might be a little bit more complex to put together than other motorcycles, probably, but it's not a daunting thing to do. As you can see, it's clearly laid out. You can see how everything goes together, and the steps that you have to take. Of course, with motorcycles, there's a little bit of a different step when building, because a lot of these little things you have to paint before assembling them, because otherwise you won't be able to get to them. But saying that, a lot of these things you sometimes can get away with not painting them at all, because a lot of stuff is not going to even be seen, because these things like are underneath the motorcycle or hidden away in a very small compartment or behind the oil pan or something. And yes, sometimes you can get away with not painting those things because they don't really matter that much, unless you want to display them with a seat down or, you know, things like that. Here, of course, is the same basic principle, and here you can see, you know, the two halves of the exhaust that go together. Of course, the seam line is going to be shown on top, but on this particular case, the saddle kind of hides the top portion very well. On the older model, that's not so. And here we have, of course, the length of the vinyl tubes and all that stuff. Here we have the layout for the fuel tank and how you mask it up and paint it so that you can get a proper finish. And this is basically the new thing, right? This thing and this thing is different from the older one. Of course, this being absent from the older one and this not being present in the older one at all. So, and of course the rest here. So, and of course the painting scheme and some decals where they go on. So that's basically it. Back to me. And that is the end of the review portion. All right. I hope you guys enjoyed this little video of mine on this Saturday morning. At least morning is when I'm doing this today. Yes, I'm being lazy. I'm actually filming it on the same day that I edit it and I upload it. So, thank you so very much for watching if you haven't. Thank you for liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing. And I'll see you again soon in the next one.